Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Art of Creation Homestead. My name is Jason. We're in the kitchen this morning, and Angela Kay is going to be making something that just sounds delicious because we're trying to use the last of these blueberries that we bought, right? So she's got an idea for what sounds to be an amazing blueberry biscuit for a good breakfast this morning. So we'll turn it over to her, okay?
So first, we're going to make our biscuits, and these are going to be a little different than traditional biscuits because they're going to have a little bit more sugar in them. Because if you guys have watched me make biscuits, I put just a pinch of sugar in mine, but this is actually going to have some sugar in it. It's actually going to be a sweeter biscuit. So because of that, you guys, if you've watched my biscuit video, you know that I normally use a cast iron pizza pan to do my biscuits on. Because these have more sugar in them, and cast iron heat's so hot, I'm afraid that it will burn the bottoms a little bit because of the sugar, so I'm just using a regular cookie sheet lined with parchment paper for it. So in this bowl we have 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. We have 3/4 of a cup of sugar, a tablespoon of baking powder, and a ½ teaspoon of salt. Now I'm just going to take a whisk and whisk it together. Now you can also sift it if you would rather sift. You can sift it, but essentially this is the same thing. It's the lazy man's way of sifting. To me, it's much easier to whisk it than to sift it. And now everything's incorporated and the flour is lightened up. So here we have 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and see, it's cut into chunks like this. I'm using unsalted because these are sweeter biscuits where normally I would use salted. And you want to put those in. You want to coat them. You want to break them all up into the little chunks because they want to stick back together. And you want to coat them in your flour mixture because you can break them up much easier once they're coated. Now, to break them up and to start mixing them in, you will take a chunk of butter and you'll squeeze it and like smear it between your fingers. And you'll just keep doing that till all of your chunks of butter are broke up into your flour. And it makes almost like butter flakes. You will have some chunks and some flakes. And you'll keep going like this until basically your flour and butter mixture will resemble kind of coarse cornmeal almost. Now our butter's all broken up. You can see there's still some chunks in there, but that's fine. Those will melt down and make for really good biscuits. Now at this point we are going to add about a cup of blueberries. I'm adding them at this point, that way they get coated in flour and they don't all sink to the bottom of your biscuits.
Now, for clarification purposes, a cup of blueberries is not like a liquid cup, right?
No.
So a cup of blueberries only weighs about 5 ounces.
A little over 5 ounces.
That's about 5.
You could err on the side of 6, but I wouldn't go any farther than that.
Yeah, 6 may be a lot. It's not even 5.5 ounces, but yeah. So 5 ounces or so. You
can err on the side of 6, but I wouldn't go any farther than that.
Right.
Okay. And once they're all mixed in, and see you've got flour in the little holes, because those little holes where the blossom's at, it's a lot of times what will make them sink if those little holes are open. Okay, so now we are going to add, you may not need all of this, but you want there just in case you need it. This is 3/4 of a cup of whole milk buttermilk and 3/4 of a cup of whole milk. So it's a total of a cup and a half. You may not need all of that. I'm going to start with about a cup because that was slightly over a cup, but you want to have it there just in case. And you want to be very gentle because you don't want to break up your blueberries while you're doing this. So you want to be very gentle. And you just want to work all of it in. With biscuits, you would rather err on the side of it being too wet than being too dry. Too dry makes for dry biscuits. I don't like dry biscuits. So we're gonna add some more. Because that would come together if I kept working it, but it wouldn't make for moist biscuits, and you want moist biscuits.
So you keep the extra liquid around just in case, like maybe it's too dry in the atmosphere that day or something. That's why you have the extra liquid.
Yes, you never really know how much it's going to take. That's why I always have extra around, because it depends on your day, it depends on your house, it depends on a lot of factors. It even depends on how much butter fat is in the butter that you're using. With baking, while it is an exact science, there's some variables there that you've got to more pay attention to the feel of things. Not so much even the look, mostly the feel. Because see, like right now, I can feel that this dough is very sticky. And for bread dough, you would add more flour. But for biscuit dough, that's perfect. You want it to be nice and sticky like that. You want to err on the side of wetter. Biscuits are always better if your dough is wet and sticky like this. Because if they're dry, you end up with dry biscuits. Now we have our dough turned out on a floured surface.
That's a big biscuit.
That's a huge biscuit.
You gonna leave it like that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Now,
My bad.
now to make them flakier. Now you may mash some blueberries during this time, but it's okay. Just try to be more gentle.
Some blueberries may be harmed in the making of this.
Yes.
These biscuits.
Well, they are going to be harmed because they're going to be eaten.
Or baked at 425.
Yes, because you want to preheat your oven to 425. Thank you, Jason.
Shadrach, Meshach, and the blueberry go. Put them in the furnace. That was terrible. Don't laugh at that joke. That was horrible. That was a terrible joke. Quit laughing.
It's early in the morning. I'll laugh at anything. So you want to fold over and pat down again. And now we're going to fold over one more time and pat down again.
What are you doing? What are you doing that for?
It makes them flakier.
Okay.
Makes them flakier.
Adding layers to your biscuits.
Yes,
right?
basically.
Gotcha. See, I knew the answer, people. I just had to ask her because she needs to tell you all this stuff instead of laughing at bad jokes.
Now you want to pat it out to about an inch thick, maybe a little over. See, you can see a blueberry went and popped open.
Blew it up.
I blew it up, but most of them are still intact. It's fine if some of them, because when you use a biscuit cutter and cut them, you're probably going to cut through a blueberry or two. It'll be fine. Now, you want to make your cuts. You can do this with a glass or anything.
Yeah.
I really love this biscuit cutter. Now, you want to make the cuts as close as you can. Go straight down, no twisting. Twisting will seal the edges shut, and they won't rise as much. So you want to go straight down, straight up. And if they get stuck like that, you can push them right through. But you get more cuts if you go as close to each other as you can get before you have to re-roll. Now, see, your ends aren't pushed together. They're open, so that they're open to rising now.
Makes sense.
So now you want to put them on your pan. But if you want flat biscuits, you will separate them like that. You will leave them apart. If you want biscuits that are tall, which I do, you will put them together because they will climb each other. They will encourage each other to grow bigger because they will climb each other. So you want to butt them up against each other. Now, I'm going to re-roll this out. You want to work it together just gently. Because your dough is nice and moist, it will come back together really easy. If your dough is too dry, it won't do. Your re-rolls are basically non-existent if your dough is too dry. That's another reason why you want to err on the side of more moist.
No, if you're adventurous, you can just leave it just like it is. One big, massive biscuit. Be kind of fun. But if you're using your brain, you want to do what Angela Kay is doing.
Yes. And then this little bit,
Don't waste them.
I roll it into.
Don't waste them.
I roll it into a little biscuit and make it into a tiny little biscuit with my hands.
He's the tester.
He's the dummy biscuit.
He's the old tester. When they come out and they cool off, we eat that one to see if they're any good or not.
He's the dummy biscuit. Now, I didn't leave enough room down there, so I'm having to move them all forward a little bit.
Start with.
So now I'm going to pop these into a 400. Nope,
No,
not
you're
going to do that.
No, she's not.
No, I'm not.
Okay. I was like, you got butter over here. Are you going to use it?
No, I'm not. Now, we have about 3 tablespoons of butter.
Melted.
Melted. This is unsalted. And I'm going to brush the tops of the biscuits. Normally, if you've watched my biscuit video, I do this halfway through so that they like fry in the butter. But because I'm making glaze for these, I'm going to brush them with butter first. That way they're not more moist and sticky on top. That way the glaze will stick to them better.
Now, if you didn't want the glaze, you could just do this halfway through, right?
Yes. Yes.
But who doesn't want a nice glaze on top of a biscuit?
On top of a blueberry biscuit especially.
Yeah, really.
Now, you may or may not use all this butter.
If you don't use it all, it means you go back and do it again.
That's Jason's theory on using butter on biscuits. Which, normally I use it all
Grease up the sides or whatever you can do. Use the dang butter. It's there for flavor.
Well, these biscuits already have a lot of butter in them.
Good point. That's fair.
But I usually do use all of it.
If you dump it all out in one biscuit, make sure you know which one it is so you can eat that biscuit yourself.
Now these will go into a 425-degree oven. Keep an eye on the bottoms. My trick is your top rack. Keep it one level down from the top. That way it's not right up against the top coils or right up against the top. Keep it one level down. Put these on the top rack. Don't put them on the bottom, put them on the top. That way they get good circulation. They won't get too brown and burn on the bottoms while the tops are getting done. So if you put them on the bottom, you're more likely for them to start burning on the bottom by the time the tops get done. So put them on the top. These beauties are out of the oven. They baked for about 12 minutes and then I turned it on broil and let them go for about 30 seconds to a minute until they got nice and brown on top. Now, you will know they're done when you push on them and they spring back instead of sinking, they'll spring back. Now at this point, they're nice and brown on the bottom, so you don't want them to get any more brown. This pan is very hot, it's gonna make them get more brown. So you wanna grab your parchment paper, slide them off. That way they start cooling on the bottoms and don't continue to brown.
Yep.
And you want to separate them out just a little bit. That way they start cooling a little bit while you make your glaze. So now, over here in a bowl, we have 3/4 of a cup of powdered sugar. To that, we are going to add about a teaspoon of vanilla.
As much vanilla as you want.
You guys know I don't measure vanilla, so this is roughly measured vanilla.
That's pretty close to a teaspoon.
This is roughly measured vanilla. And this is going to depend on how thin or thick you want your glaze. So start out with about 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. You can also use milk. I choose to use heavy cream because it makes your glaze creamier. And I think it tastes better than if you just use milk. And as you can see, it's going to need a little bit more. Now, you won't need as much liquid if you're using milk, because milk is a lot thinner. It will thin it out quicker.
But also remember, if you're putting this on a hot biscuit, it's going to, melt it, right?
Yes, yes.
So you may not want it to be super thin because it's just gonna run everywhere.
But you don't want it to be super thick either.
No.
That you don't want to have to spread it on. You want to have to spoon it on.
Don't want to be gloppy either.
Yes.
Absolutely.
See, now this is getting a little better. That's at 3 tablespoons, but it's still a little too gloppy. So I'm adding another tablespoon. That may have been about a tablespoon and a half because I could see that it was going to need more than 1 tablespoon.
So that's going to do it.
You want to stir it up really good, and you want to hold it up and see how it falls off the spoon. To me, I think it still needs just a tiny bit more, maybe that other half of a tablespoon. Just to loosen it up just a little bit more, because it was still glopping off the spoon a lot. And there was still lumps of powdered sugar. So anytime there's lumps of powdered sugar, it's going to stiffen up as you stir it, because those lumps are going to start breaking up. See, now it's flowing more freely. So now I think we're ready, because we're going to put it on a hot biscuit and it will melt. So now you just want to spoon it on there. You can drizzle it or you can spoon it. It doesn't matter. It depends on.
If you try to make it look pretty, go ahead, but don't worry about it.
It depends on how much glaze you want. I'm just going to spoon it on top and kind of spread it around. But you can make it thinner and drizzle it and make a nice little design and be a beautiful biscuit. To me, I think these are pretty just the way they are.
Look at that beautiful biscuit. Wow. Awesome. So amazing. Blueberries on my hands. So good though. It was phenomenal with a pH. Delicious, delicious, delicious biscuit. They're so tasty. Stands alone. Ain't gonna do nothing to it. Wonderful biscuits that Angela K made. So thank you all so much for watching. We appreciate it. My name is Jason. It's Angela K. She's a smart one. This is Art of Christian Homestead. We love y'all. God bless you and goodbye.